Howdy, it's Ben and or Bookish Bear here, and I'm going to do a tag today because I decided that I wanted to start doing some tags, and I don't really know anybody yet, so no one's tagging me, so I'm just going to do it. And I found this one, it's the Reading Habits tag, which seems to be a really old tag that's been around for a long time. I couldn't actually find the original video. I found a few videos that linked to it that said it wasn't available, so I'm not sure. So whoever created this tag, shout out to you, but I'm sorry I couldn't find your original video. It's okay, I guess. Okay, so number one, do you have a certain place at home for reading? I do have a designated spot for reading here in my office, which is just a chair next to my desk. It's a pretty comfy chair from IKEA and have a lamp next to it. And it's I do read in here sometimes, but usually I read in bed. I just prefer to be in the bed because it's the most comfortable place. Sometimes the couch in the living room, but usually the bed is where I go to do some serious reading and if I'm going to spend a lot of time reading, unless my husband is asleep, and then I will read on the couch. But my dog bugs me a lot when I read on the couch, so I don't usually read in there. 2. Bookmark or a random piece of paper. I usually use a bookmark. I am in a reading community, and we do like a bookmark swap, and so everybody makes bookmarks for a certain person, and then we send them to them. So I'm getting a lot of cool bookmarks from some cool people, and so I usually use those now because they're specific to what I like, and people make them for me, so that's pretty cool. I kind of use just whatever's around though if I can't find a bookmark, but usually I just use a bookmark. 3. Can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or at a certain amount of pages? It really depends. It really depends on the book, what I'm reading, and how much time I have left. I am definitely capable of just closing a book. So if I'm not into it, I'll just stop reading and put it away and go do something else. If it's something I'm really into, I usually will try to get to the end of a chapter and start again at another chapter. I tend to do that most of the time, I guess, is just end at a chapter. But I'm totally down. I guess I do both is the short answer. 4. Do you eat or drink while reading? I occasionally snack, not usually when I'm reading, but I almost always have a cup of coffee or tea. I'm kind of obsessed with coffee, so usually coffee. If not, then water, but I usually have a beverage near me while I'm reading. Yes. 5. Multitasking, music or TV while reading. I almost always listen to music while I'm reading. Like I've said in a different video, my music match video, which you can go watch if you'd like, I need that mental buffer. So if I lose interest in the book and start to think about something else, my mind goes to the music and then it reminds me to read. So I kind of need that mental buffer sometimes because my brain won't stop. So almost always music. I can read if the TV's on, but usually I don't like to do that because it's distracting. And I don't find music really distracting when I read. But I am really good at tuning things out. So sometimes when I'm reading, my husband will be calling my name and I just don't realize it. Or if I'm out in public and reading, I don't know what's going on around me. I can tune out pretty well. 6. One book at a time or several at once? This is something that I'm kind of back and forth about. For the past about 5 or 6 years, I've been pretty strict about just reading one book at a time and find that helps me read more books and get through more books. Since I decided to read just one at a time, I do find that I read more. That said, I usually have one book that is a physical copy or maybe an ebook that I consider the main book that I'm reading at the time. And if I'm reading something else, it's usually a collection of short stories or essays or something like that. Something that I don't feel like I need to dedicate as much time to, so I can just read one essay or one short story and then move on. So I usually have a bunch of collections of short stories and essays on my phone that I can read if I'm out and about and want to read, but usually I just carry a book around too. So usually one at a time, but sometimes more than that. 7. Reading at home or everywhere? Both. I read majority at home, obviously. We're pretty much homebodies, so we don't leave the house a lot. If we're going on a long trip, few hours or so, I would definitely take a book, or like I said, read on my phone. If I'm out and about and waiting, like in a waiting room or something, I definitely try to read on my phone or take a book. So kind of both, but mostly home. 8. Reading out loud or silently in your head. I gotta say, I didn't know that reading out loud was still a thing that people did. I don't remember the last time that I read out loud. Probably like 10 years ago when my husband and I first met, and we were in different cities, and I would read to him over the phone. It's probably the last time that I read out loud. So yeah, I just read in my head. I guess that works for people to read out loud, but it never occurred to me to do that. 9. Do you read ahead or ever skip pages? Very rarely will I do that. No, I don't really skip ahead. If I don't like a book, I just kind of don't read it, but I don't really skip ahead. I might skim a little faster than I normally would if I'm not super into whatever's going on in the book, but I never skip ahead. 10. Breaking the spine or keeping it like new? With paperbacks, I don't really care about breaking a spine. I am pretty bad about like taking a book and just sitting it down, which really freaks people out. And I know that people get really upset about that, but it doesn't really bother me. If it's a paperback, usually I don't spend a lot of money on my books because I buy them secondhand or used, and I do that simply so I can buy more books. If it's a nice hardcover or if it's a book that I really like, I'll try to keep it in new condition, I guess. If it's a really nice hardcover, then I don't want to break the spine. But with a paperback that I'm reading, I don't really care, and I will damage it, and it's going to end up in pretty bad condition, and people might be upset by that, but that's okay because it's not their book. 11. Do you write in books? Not typically. Sometimes. I tend to underline or highlight things. So I usually, if it's something usually nonfiction or like essay collections or something, I'll have a highlighter or a pencil and just underline things or mark them, things that I really enjoy, or things that connect with me. If I'm reading fiction, usually if there's a line that just really gets me, usually with poetry, this is the way that I'll definitely underline or highlight that. Occasionally I'll write something in the margins. I usually don't feel like I have much to add. If it's a good book and it's well written, then what do I have to add to it? So, but I might make a note in the margins occasionally, but not very often. Okay, so that's my first tag, which is pretty cool. I hope to do more in the future. Feel free to tag me in other tags if you are interested in what I have to say about them, I guess. And thanks for watching. Goodbye.